Session 3 is all about risotto and what we're going to do with 3 different lots of risotto to show you how to take it from a simple basic risotto to something quite advanced. So I'm going to use a frying pan, not necessarily the best pan, a small shallow pan. This is just for filming purposes. So we're going to start off, a little bit of oil in there and a small amount of butter, some chopped garlic, some risotto rice and some shallots, and we're going to start to sweat this shallot and garlic off and coat the rice with the butter and the oil. Add a little bit more oil into there, and you want to start to get some shine on the risotto rice. So just while that's happening on there, we're going to use some wild mushrooms in the risotto today, and we just cut these up. This is how they come, just broken up pieces of dried wild mushroom, several different varieties, and we've just reconstituted in some boiling water, and then we've kept the liquid back, and we're going to use that as our stock base to give us a nice mushroom flavour to the risotto. Now we're going to add just some vegetable stock, and we're going to add a little bit at a time. We're not going to add a lot all in one go, and we want the starch in the rice to start coming out, and that will start to thicken as it starts to thicken the stock as it starts coming out of the rice grains. We're not going to season it at this point. We'll season it once the rice is partially cooked, otherwise I think you get a tougher skin, a tougher shell on the rice afterwards. And now we're going to use some of this nice dark brown mushroom stock, which is from when we've soaked the mushrooms. I'm going to ask James to show us how to make some Parmesan crisps, just while that's cooking away gently on there.
Right guys, I'm going to show you a little bit of a presentation technique to go onto your risotto. So something a little bit different than your normal shaved Parmesan or something like that. We're going to do some Parmesan crisps. So I've got a little ring cutter there, metal one. Doesn't have to be metal, it can be plastic. We've got a baking tray lined with some greaseproof paper. I'm going to put the ring on. I've got some finely grated Parmesan there, Parmesan cheese. And in the ring we're just going to sprinkle some in. Not loads, you don't want a big thick layer of it, but you don't want too little either. You'll see once I've removed the ring. And this is just going to give your risotto another dimension. It's going to give it a bit more texture as well, because once it's been crisped up in the oven, it'll be nice and crunchy. And we're going to take the ring off, and you've got a nice disc of Parmesan there. We're going to go into the oven now and cook at about 190 for about 4 to 5 minutes till they're bubbling golden and all the cheese is melted.
Our risotto's ticking away nicely on there. It's still got some liquid in. It slides and it moves around in the pan, and then we're just going to have a taste just to make sure that the rice is cooked. Yeah. So, bit of salt, bit of pepper. Just give that another mix in. Just taking off the heat. We will taste it again before we serve it. We're going to put a few of these chopped wild mushrooms in, and the heat of the rice will carry on heating the mushrooms through. Traditionally, risotto is a peasant food from Italy, and it needs to be so it slides and moves around in the pan. We'll put some Parmesan in there. And instantly you can see the Parmesan has dried up that moisture now. It still moves and slides. And then we're going to put a little tiny bit of butter in, just to enrich it. Taste it again for seasoning. Tiny bit more salt. And then we're going to present wild mushroom risotto. I'm going to clean up the edges again, all for aesthetics and presentation purposes, and your risotto still moves it's still free flowing, it's not sat and piled up in a bowl. So there's our basic wild mushroom risotto. Our base risotto, our wild mushroom one, and just as we're finishing it off, a little bit of butter in there just to enrich it again, a little bit of spinach, again we're just going to let that fall and wilt into there, and then some blue cheese, just give that a mix, and this is going to be our intermediate level risotto. So we've taken our base level and we've added some blue cheese and some spinach to this one. Some of the lovely grated parmesan, a tiny touch of salt again, give it a stir, and then we're ready to serve it in this bowl. Again, we don't want it too runny, too dry, just so it moves around in the dish. So there's our intermediate wild mushroom, blue cheese and spinach risotto. Here's the parmesan crisps that James made earlier, as you can see, and then present it. Stand it up. It won't stand up for too long because the cheese will start to melt. But there's just a little twist on putting your parmesan on top. So this is our basic risotto that we had before, and we're going to take this now 2 stages further in readiness for our advanced level. So we've put some of the mushrooms in, we're going to put some spinach in, and the spinach will just wilt down in the heat of the pan. We'll just let that mix in, and then we're going to put some blue cheese in there. Now we've got Stilton, doesn't matter whether it's Stilton, any Scandinavian blue cheese, or doesn't matter, whatever blue cheese you want. We're going to take that now off the heat and we're going to put it into a tray. So we get it all out and we're going to spread it, not too thin, onto a tray, and we're just going to put it into the fridge just to cool it down. Here's our risotto mix that we've had in the fridge chilling down, and we're literally just going to take a small amount, as a little handful, into a bowl, and then we're going to roll it in seasoned flour, so just plain flour with a little bit of salt and pepper in there. Keep its shape. Into some beaten egg. So you've gone from a wet mixture into a little bit of dry, into a bit of wet, and then into some crumbs. We're using panko crumbs, Japanese bread crumbs, which is like little shards of bread. And I think you get a nicer, crisper texture from them. So try and keep it as a ball shape. And back into the egg again. And this is just a classical pane mix. Flour, egg and breadcrumb. Now if you want to, there's nothing stopping you using wholemeal bread for this, but just make sure it's dry before you make it into crumbs. So as you can see, a nice little ball, and then we'll do the next one. We'll get that one in the egg mix again. Try and keep one hand in the wet, one hand in the dry, otherwise it'll be stuck all around your fingers. I'm going to go and take these now. I'm going to deep fry these about 175, 180 until they're nice and golden brown. So before you start deep frying, make sure you've got everything to hand. You've got your slotty spoon, your tray with your parchment paper on, or your blue paper towel, so you're not walking away from the fryer. The basket's lifted up out of the fryer, and we're going to sit the arancini, the risotto balls, in the basket, and then we're going to lower it into the oil. And we're going to stay with the fryer, we're not going to walk away. We're going to lift up our fryer basket, and as you can see, our arancini balls are a nice golden colour. Slotty spoon underneath, and we're just going to sit them onto the paper towel just to absorb any excess oil coming off them now. I'm just going to leave them sat there for a few minutes. I'm going to pass these over to James and he's going to finish off the dish.
So Steve's got his arancini balls nice and golden there, so nice crisp outside. I'm just going to make a little sauce to go along with it, a little garnish to make it into a dish, and more not just a street food, because this is really an Italian style of street food really. So in the pan there, I've just got some chopped shallot, some spinach, some garlic and some sun-dried tomatoes. I've just swept those down. You don't want to take them too far because you still want the spinach to have a little bit of colour. I'm going to add a little bit of passata to it, not loads, just a little bit, to create almost like a little sauce. Again, we'll get that going in there. So we've still got the nice green vibrant colour in there. You've got the sun-dried tomato for that sweetness as well. I'm going to add a touch of parmesan in there as almost like a seasoning. Tiny touch of black pepper. And then a little tiny pinch of salt. And mix that up, get that warm. We're almost there. I'm going to use a different spoon to taste it. Always important, never to double dip. Perfect. So I've got a couple of plates here. Your sauce is ready. You don't want to take it too far because you still want to have a little bit of colour in it. So I've got an elongated plate which can be used as almost like a sharing starter really, and then a more just general plate there. So I'll just show you how I would plate it up. So we've got a little bit of the tomato sauce there. We're going to smear that out a little bit. There's almost like a little platform to rest the arancini on. I'm going to take a couple of these balls. I'm going to place one on top there, and then I'm going to place another one on top of it there. And we've got some parmesan crisps that I've made there, or tuiles, but I've just wrapped that one round a rolling pin when it's come out of the oven. It still has to be warm, and then as it cools it'll create that shell. So that can either be leaned up against it there, against that one. I've also made a cup there for that one, and I'll show you a different presentation technique for that. So if I put the sauce on the bottom of the plate there, we're going to take that basket, we're going to sit that basket in there in the middle, and then we're going to take our arancini ball and we're going to sit that in the middle there. And that's just a couple of simple presentation techniques there for your arancini. Just makes it look a little bit more impressive and a little more inviting for customers.
So here's our risotto dishes. Our basic wild mushroom risotto. We've taken it to the next level, our intermediates, by adding a bit more spinach, blue cheese and a few more bits of wild mushrooms, and we put a parmesan crisp on top. And then finally, two different ways of presenting. So we've taken our base, our intermediate risotto, chilled it down, made it into arancini and deep fried it, served it on a tomato and spinach sauce or salsa with a little parmesan basket or parmesan tuile for our more advanced skill level. We hope you've enjoyed our trip around Italy with our risottos today. If there's any questions, please put them into the chat box or email us at the end.